The library is complete. And yes, I am now Ginger. Roll the title. Hello! I know it has been absolutely ages since my last video, but you know, life has been wonderful and busy. As much as I knew this library would be a massive, long project, I severely underestimated just how massive and just how long. Not to mention we've also been doing a lot of work with the rest of the house. It's been a non-stop DIY fest since we moved in. But we're here now. If you're new to my channel, welcome to Squirrel's Bookshelf. I'm Jess, head squirrel. Now normally I post a lot of bookish videos, anything from histories of books to repair tutorials and much more. But this year I'll admit has been sparse of squirrely content due to moving and maintaining sanity while I crafted this, my dream fantasy library. Now this is the third vlog I've done on my library construction so far. Sorry, this chair is really squeaky. Well, at this point, I'm officially declaring the library finished. With an asterisk. There are still a few small things to do, and I do have some other plans for future projects that I'm gonna do after I've recovered. So what I will do is occasionally post some update vlogs on the evolution of the library. Now I'll keep everything library related in a playlist, which I'll put somewhere up here and down in the description, and there you can also find parts 1 and 2 of this vlog if you haven't seen them already. Now before I pick up where I left off in my last vlog, I will say there will be a part 4 coming in the near future, and that's because the last thing I still have to do is organize my books. I know there are books behind me on the shelves, but they are in no particular order because they just got shoved in there as I had to move things around while building the library. So, alongside showing you how I like to organize and decorate my bookshelves, I thought I would open up an opportunity for a little Q&A. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, be they about books or myself or the library, feel free to leave your questions in a comment below this video or check out my Instagram at squirrelynerdyjess. I'll put up some sort of post or story or something over there where you can enter questions as well. I'm not very good with social media, so I'll have to figure it out, but we'll do it. So I'll leave that open to y'all. If nobody has any questions for me, well, then you're just gonna watch me putting away books, which will be fine. It's fine. But if you do have anything at all that you're curious about, what it's like being an American living in the UK, what it was like working at Disneyland, since I've mentioned that in my Disney videos, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? You need only ask. I'm an open book. I had to. Alright, you've listened to me ramble on long enough. Let's get to the good stuff. Now at the end of my last vlog, I had completed a section of the ceiling stars, so finishing that was the first priority. After many days of painstakingly hand painting or foiling each and every star, my ceiling was finally, well and truly complete. The only bit of painting left was the beam. As I've mentioned before, I wanted to do a pattern across the bottom and sides of the beam, somehow incorporating squirrels. So to start, I went to my favorite search engine, Ecosia. Now Ecosia helps plant trees across the world, and I'm a squirrel, so I love trees. And I first looked at some squirrel silhouettes to get some ideas. From this search, I was able to find a few with different features that I liked, and Frankenstein them together with my pen tool until I got this little guy. Let's put him on the sides of the beam. Now for the rest of the side design, I kept picturing in my mind the buildings of Fantasyland and Disneyland, which very much have the same feeling I'm going for. One building in particular that is very special to me is the now sadly abandoned Skyway loading dock. The Skyway was my favorite ride at Disneyland when I was a little kid, so I definitely wanted to pull something from this. Now from this angle, I noticed a sort of swirly pattern with a flower inside, and I thought that looked rather nice. So I stole it. After some more fiddling with the pen tool and plenty of duplicating and flipping, I ended up with this. I printed the pattern out and turned it into a stencil by carefully cutting out the design, tracing it onto some thicker cardstock, and then cutting that out. With stencil in hand, it was time to trace the pattern along the sides of the beam. Now, this being an old, wonky house, the line between the beam and the ceiling was very uneven, so I measured my stencil from the bottom edge of the beam to keep it looking relatively even. Also, if you ever want to try something like this at home, I highly recommend keeping a pencil sharpener by your side and keeping your pencil as sharp as possible. For the colors, I wanted to use up paint we already had around the house, so I grabbed a dark chocolate brown I had bought for our living room mantelpiece for the background, and a lighter color that was left behind by the previous owners of our house, which they used for most of the house. I did want a couple of details to be some shade in between, so I just mixed a small batch of the two colors together until I found a suitable middle ground. With that, I bought myself a new pack of very fine detail brushes and got to work. I started with a rough outline background fill with the dark brown, and then went in with the tan detailing, and then did a cleanup pass with the dark brown again. After that, I very carefully added the middle brown details. After the first side was done, I decided that, something is missing. Yep, I added gold foiling. I may have a problem, but I accept that. The other side of the beam was done in exactly the same manner, so then it came down to the bottom of the beam. I pretty much just searched for inspiration online until I found this photo, and I knew that I had found it. So again, I sort of redrew the pattern on my computer, printed it out, and created a custom stencil. I used the middle brown color I had mixed for the leafy pattern with some gold foiled details, then filled in the background with a dark brown again, and finally gold foiled the border lines. And at last, my neck got a much deserved rest. I was done looking up at long last. Now time to look down. The floorboards. So first I sanded the boards to remove all the paint splotches and discoloration. And yes, this was easily the most miserable part of the process, being trapped in a tornado of dust. So much dust. So much dust. I then did another pass with a finer grit to smooth out the wood. Now there were a few boards that were cracked and worn out, but Handy Husband figured out a way to reuse the boards for the most part so that we only had one strip to replace entirely. I assisted Handy Husband in cutting the boards down to size, and then just for fun, we decided to carve our family's names into the underside of the board for posterity. next step was filling the gaps, which was to be done using a mixture of PVA glue and the sawdust I had collected from sanding the boards. Now by this point, I was so burnt out. On top of that, it took a while to figure out the best approach with mixing the glue and sawdust, so not gonna lie, I spent about 2 weeks doing this. Finally, I decided to buckle down and ask for help so I could just get this floor done. Alright, husband, explain how this works.
Okay, so we're aiming for a sort of chocolatey paste. A paste that you can then sort of work in with your fingers into the gap, like that.
Okay, thank you, husband. Say bye.
Bye, and you're welcome, squirrel.
And that's exactly what I did. Once everything had dried overnight, I did a quick run over the gaps to remove the excess glue. And finally, I did a very fine grit pass over the entire floor. Then it was time to varnish. With the first coat of varnish down, I was immediately in love. Unfortunately, I have to admit that the second coat of varnish made the color a little more yellow than I would have liked, but the floor was done and I was more than ready to move on. Now, the last major hurdle in completing this library was, of course, the bookshelves. However, I was impatient and moved in everything else that had been clogging up space in the rest of the house. I found the perfect rug in the place I least expected, IKEA. But it was beautiful, it was big enough, and it was very affordable. I'm on a budget here. Speaking of budgets, I'd been continuing to browse Facebook Marketplace for secondhand Billy bookcases. I did manage to find 2 of the half-width ones, which meant that when lockdown was finally lifted enough to travel to our nearest IKEA in Bristol, my shopping list was reduced to only 2 more half-width Billy bookcases and 3 full-width Billy bookcases. Welcome to the piano room. So here, over there, and over there, and some other stuff. These are the spoils of our IKEA shopping trips. I also bought extensions and 1 extra shelf for all 7 bookcases. I just love that you can customize them so easily. What I didn't love about the Billys was what came next. But before we dig into that rant, process, I'd like to take a moment to thank my incredible sponsor for this video, best friend Helen. Okay, so she didn't strictly sponsor this video, but I really needed to give her a massive shout out. So Helen is one of my best friends in the entire world, and what happened was she actually had planned to fly over here to England and surprise me for my 30th birthday. But obviously with the pandemic, everything got canceled. So in lieu of that not having happened, and with my next birthday coming up this past May, she bought my bookshelves. She bought all of them. She bought all my bookshelves. I tried to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't let me. So yeah, she's amazing. I'm just really appreciative. Thank you, Helen. Love you. Right. Now, if you watched the first video of this vlog, you may recall that I was a bit upset with IKEA for deciding that nobody in the world could possibly want a different shade of wood veneer other than light oak or lighter oak. So I decided to try staining the oak veneer ones to a much darker shade. I set aside an entire weekend to do this. A full month later, I was, and frankly still am, squirreling away at these damn shelves. Once again, I massively underestimated just how big of an undertaking this would be. See, here's the thing. Each bookcase has 2 sides, a back, a top, a bottom, plus a small frontal board at the base, and then 5 shelves, 1 static and 4 adjustable. That's 11 pieces per bookcase. With 7 bookcases, that's already 77 parts. But then, each bookcase got an extension, which was another 4 pieces each. So 77 plus 28 equals 105. But I love torturing myself. So remember, I also bought an additional shelf per bookcase? Yep, in total there were 112 boards. each of which had to be lightly sanded on all veneered sides and edges, and most were double-sided. Then each side got between 5 and 7 coats of varnish to get the desired look. And finally, 2 coats of clear lacquer per side. Before any of that, though, we also discovered that the skirting boards in my library are too high for the standard cutaway allowance on the billies. So Handy Husband figured out where we could cut away an additional bit off each bookcase side so it could be a little closer to the wall without creating as much of a gap around the back. Not to mention the 2 bookcases I bought secondhand had to be dismantled first. And all of this had to be done either on the weekends or after my work days in a small work area at the top of our stairs so as to be out of the way of husband's music lessons downstairs. That is, until this happened.
Oh, this little girl is quite happy right now. What a world, right? So my husband just got a notification from the NHS track and trace service here in the UK that we have to self-isolate for the next 5 days because I guess at some point we came in contact with somebody who is now tested positive for COVID. We're both feeling absolutely fine. We don't have any symptoms, and we've both just taken the at-home lateral flow tests, and they both came out negative. We've also ordered sort of the next stage of test up just to be sure that we're fine. But in the meantime, looks like we got a 5-day weekend. Yay! So husband is going to be working on building a bike, and I am going to be hopefully finishing my bookcases because they have taken a very long time. I think every part of this room has been a very long process, and I think I finished it with the longest of all the processes because I am literally taking each piece of each bookcase while I'm making sure that they're all clean and I'm not getting too much excess on the edges because then they sort of stick together, which I learned the hard way. Yeah, and then I build all the bookcases and put them all together. So where we're at right now is, as you can see, I've got 2 small bookcases done and 2 big bookcases done. I have 1 more big one to do, and I've got 2 more small ones which are going to be going here, and then I have to finish up the extensions as well. I've already got 1 done. That's up there. I have all of the board pieces done for a second big extension. So essentially there are 2 of those that are done. Tia Doodle, you're just making little noises in my video. Why don't you come here? Why don't you be part of the video? Little click clack, click clack, click clack. This little girl just had a birthday. Are you a little 11-year-old girl now? Mwah. Anyway, yep, so now that I've got these 5 days off, I better get going.
Alas, I worked my squirrely bum off during those 5 days. To date, I now have 6 of the 7 bookcases complete, with extensions, and most shelves. The final bookshelf will be in the opposite corner, and to be honest, I'm not in a massive rush to get that one done. I also found this beautiful display cabinet with lighting inside and everything for free on Facebook Marketplace, which I've now deemed the magical cabinet, as it now houses my Harry Potter collection. I do have secret plans for this cabinet in the future, so if you're interested to see my collection, I will show it off in that video. But that's for the future. Now before I show you the final reveal, there were a few decorations to hang on the walls. As well as setting up my new book repair / crafting station, which includes the bureau, a navy blue set of IKEA drawers for all of my supplies, my antique cast iron book press on top of those, and a couple of extra little shelves for more book repair tools. These are the, I think it's pronounced Becktham shelves at IKEA. They're marketed as spice racks, but they are enormously useful for a multitude of things. Not to mention, they're very cheap. And they come as a plain wood so you can stain or paint them easily. I just threw in a quick coat of the same varnish I was using for my bookcases, and voila! I also acquired a little standing shelf from a friend on which I can keep books in need of repair on standby. And finally, this gorgeous wooden faux candle chandelier I got off Facebook Marketplace for £5 was installed. Handy husband rewired it and hooked it up with a new antique brass style ceiling hook and chain. I'm in love with it. So where things stand now, I do actually have a few shelves still for the big bookcases that are still in the process of being varnished. Still going, but most of them are done now. These bookshelves are all complete and they're all bolted to the walls. And eventually I will get around to doing the last bookcase, but between you and me, that bookcase is off camera. But essentially, I'm just about done in here. Yeah, I can't believe I did this, to be honest. I really can't believe that I have managed to create this space, because I have wanted to do something like this to this extent with a room pretty much all my life. I've always liked creating spaces, and for a while I actually thought about becoming a sort of set decorator for either films or Disney Imagineering or something like that. So finally having this opportunity and then seeing that I can actually do it. I mean, it's all amateur stuff, but like, I did it. So, you know, let that be a lesson to anyone out there. If any of you want to do something and you think it's a little bit outside your boundaries or a lot outside your boundaries of what you can do, one, YouTube is amazing. The internet in general and books are amazing. You can teach yourself things, but also, I mean, just go for it. You do learn along the way, and I will admit the learning curves are not my favorite part of the process, but you know, I've come away learning a lot of new skills. So yes, you have my full support to just go for it, really go for it. And to quote, I think it was Neil Gaiman? Hold on. Yes, it is Neil Gaiman. I hope you'll make mistakes. If you're making mistakes, it means you're out there doing something. And with that, I will take my leave. Again, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer in the next video of my Q&A, leave a comment below or visit my Instagram at SquirrelyNerdyJess. Beyond that, I hope to be getting back into the swing of making videos very soon. Until next time, be kind, be curious, be effective, and keep on reading.